silverstacking surfer. I think I'm your best friend. Balances in your bank instead. I don't think so either. We've had a red wave come across the country here with this last presidential election. Republicans now have the presidency, the House, and the Senate, and they probably for the first time in 50 years have a favorable Supreme Court in their direction. They have the potential to change all kinds of stuff. Maybe not enough votes to do constitutional amendments, but they could definitely go and clean house in a lot of departments, and they could change philosophy. I've yet to hear gold and silver brought up. I've yet to hear sound money brought up. I've heard cryptos being brought up. But everything I'm hearing right now is highly inflationable. I mean, it's massive. And so, even though I may be able to stay in my house and inflation's going to kick in and maybe my price will go up in time, I don't see real estate appreciating anywhere near the speed it has in the past and the same kind of percentage. And so even though my house could go up in value, I still may be making negative returns on it compared to inflation. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They think, hey, my house is more, it's a little bit more valuable than it was last year. Well, yeah, but everything else has moved up way faster. So priced in gold, my house is losing value quickly. And that's one of the things that I'm looking at. And I'm not telling everybody to go sell their house, by the way. I just happen to live in a very expensive place in California, and I've got the opportunities to restructure that so that I can pull some of my wealth out. I still think it's a great idea to have your house paid off and not to have loans and to not have any personal loans on your cars or any of that if you can afford to do that. I think the only debt that I would ever recommend for anybody is if it's business debt and there is assets there and you've got the cash flow to cover things. Sometimes you need to have, cash flow support and things like that.
Well, you'd always have to have cash flow support.
So you got to have that. Plus you may have to make capital investments. If you're a farmer, you've got to buy equipment to do to grow your fields and all that stuff. But as far as personal goes, I think now is a great time also for people to get out of debt. I do hear every once in a while, Lynette, people talk about a jubilee where everything's just going to disappear and you're going to have no debt. And I don't know where that's coming from, but I think that's a very dangerous thought.
It's opium.
Yeah, it's opium for sure.
That's what it is. It's opium. It's not historic. It's not reality. But you make a very good point here in that the debt must be reset.
Yes.
Okay. So because now there are all different ways to do it, but government, what do? The whole system is designed on inflating away the debt. And how do you do that? You just make the money that you repay that debt in cheaper and cheaper, have less and less and less value. So I definitely agree with you that debt works great on the way up and it makes everybody look rich, right? You're looking at these markets at these nosebleed levels, knowing you should know most of it is done with borrowed money. So it works great on the way up and it looks like things are going great, but you always have to pay that. You have to deal with that debt. You have to make the payments. To your point, you got to make the payments. So you have to service that debt, or you have to pay it off, or you have to roll it over, or you have to default on it. Those are the choices. So part of the strategy, because most people can't really afford to pay off their house. And quite honestly, the dollar buys you more today than it does, and buys you more gold, right? Overvalued. And this is overvalued because they want inflation. That's why they're dropping the rates, is to generate inflation. So that's telling you this is overvalued. We're taking it down, right? So this is overvalued. This is undervalued. And because we can determine what the fundamental value, what the true value of 1 ounce of gold is, then we know how many ounces of gold do you need to pay off that mortgage, right? So as long as it's fixed rate debt, I don't really have a problem with that. Just be properly diversified and just pay attention to me, because the only reason why, and I have a big mortgage on this house, but the only reason why I have a mortgage on this house at all is because I want to execute the strategy with everybody else. And so even if my house were paid off, I'd probably go put a little loan on it because I want to execute that strategy.
And
Right.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And so, I'm not telling people to go pay all their houses off either. There,
Well, it's not horrible if you do one way
it's
or the
not.
other.
It what it is it comes down to personal, right?
Yes.
Each person's going to be different, and so you've got to see if it makes sense for your strategy or not. Uh,
Yes.
your cash flows are going to change if you pay your house off, and if you're not prepared for that, it can be pretty bad. So you want to talk to your CPA. You want to talk to people like Lynette on that strategy. So Lynette, a question I've got for you then: if someone wants to get in touch with you, and if they want to understand what some of the strategies are that you put together for your clients, how do they do that?
Well, I'm very visible and I've been around for a long time. We have a very active YouTube channel and also on Twitter. So we're at the Lynette Zang on Instagram and Facebook. We're at Lynette Zang. And how we were lucky enough to get this phone number, don't even ask me, but it's great. 833 GLD ZANG. So that translates into 833-453-9264. And the way that we work is we're going to help you. Either you have your goals intact, or if we need to define them. You were talking about property taxes. You were talking about real estate. So we do look at everything. What are your goals? Where are you at? And our job and the strategy is about helping you get from here to there. Because you even talked to me earlier about doing some farmland, which is fabulous. Well, in January, we are coming out with our new YouTube channel that is on all the rest of the mantra pieces. So food,
Love it.
water, energy, security, barterability, which for me is primarily silver, but it's other things as well. Wealth preservation, which for me is gold. Community, which is arguably the most important part of that mantra, as well as shelter, because you have to have a place to make your last stand, right? You're in a position because you're in an expensive neighborhood to liquidate your property at that high price and then go someplace where the prices are less, and you can still pay off your property if that's what you're choosing to do, right? So you have to look at, to your point, everybody is different, but you always want to establish your goals first, and that's what we do, because anybody can sell you gold and silver. I mean, we were having that, I'm not going to bring up names, but we were having that conversation earlier. That doesn't take rocket science.
Yeah.
But you need to know what to do with it and when to do it. And everything that we do is all color coded. So it's designed for you. When you pick up this coin, oh, all right, what's the function? What's the purpose? Why did I buy this coin? Right? Did I buy it to pay off my mortgage? Did I buy it to convert into income producing assets? Did I buy it to leave to my children as a legacy? Right? So there are 6 different areas or different kinds of gold and silver for all of those different functions. And that's what we look at. But I can't tell you what that is until I know what you're trying to accomplish. And even when you do go and buy a farm, well, we're going to have that out there, and we have the resources here. Morgan, my farm manager, she's so fabulous. I can't even tell you how fabulous she is. Her focus is on building local community as well. She knows all about how to get grants for this and grants for that. And I mean, she is such a wealth of information, and she's accessible for free, right? I mean, the mantra, this is about building local community, because one person can't do it all. It's just not possible. So you have to come together in community, and you need to know who is growing your food, right? Go to the farmer's market, meet these people, say, hey, can I come out to your farm and give you a day's labor? Now, what are you doing? You're creating a relationship. And if push comes to shove and this guy needs food and you need food and they go to the same farmer, who's going to get the food? Right? So plus you'll learn a new skill. And guess what? That's barterable too. Anything that's physical, any talent or skill that you have is barterable. Personally, I other than because I talk about bullion, so I got to show you, and certainly we do that at Zang Enterprises. We can get you anything you want, but my personal preference is all the pre-33s because it's just hard for me to imagine, since they have been confiscating my work and my wealth since the day I was born. I just find it hard to believe at the very last piece, when our government and our central bank is going to need as much gold as possible, and it's going to have to be provable. I'm thinking it's going to have to be provable that they're going to need your gold, and that's why they're going to have to confiscate, because they're going up against the rest of the world that's accumulating gold like crazy. And quite honestly, our gold has never been audited.
Yep.
And they can create all of these funny contracts to lease this out and do this and that, blah, blah, blah. So they say that they have 81 or 8133 tons, but who knows if that's true or not? The world, as this transition in power shifts, is going to demand to know the truth. Or why are they going to believe the US? Because we've been pretty heavy-handed in the financial system, let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, everybody's not going to believe our word on it, especially when we haven't even looked at it ourselves. So yeah, that'll be an interesting day. Let's hope there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Good stories. So, well, Lynette, I want to thank you for coming on today. This has been great, and hopefully we can have you back on again soon. I understand you're heading out to Australia, so safe travels, and we look forward to watching your journey out there as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited because I'm going to be doing some things on this travel that I have never done before. So it's going to be, we'll be putting this information out as we go along. But one of the things that I'm going to do is actually report on something that I've talked about quite a bit. But Australia was the first country to actually do this, and they are dealing with the consequences of it now. And I'm actually going to be standing on the spot and talking about it. So I'm really excited for a lot of this trip. But I would also like to say this. I believe that community is arguably the single most important thing that we need to do, because there is power in numbers. And you see, I saw a sign that protesters were holding up in Zimbabwe as they did that overnight revaluation. And it said, but what can I do? I'm only one person. Said 7 billion people. Exactly. That's what they count on. And everything has been about dividing to conquer. Because if I'm busy being mad at you, I'm not looking at what they're doing. So it's about distraction. My personal goal and my mission and why I'm doing this is to bring local communities together so that we can survive this and you can create security in all those mantra areas: food, water, energy security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. But not more important, equally as important, is building a global community and doing a quiet revolution where you just buy gold and silver. It's peaceful, it's quiet, it makes a statement. And there are actually 8.4 billion people on the planet. I believe that if we can get 3% of the people to buy into gold and silver, that we can establish a seat at the table. And what that means is I want to say in this next monetary iteration, this is our opportunity to create that say. If we don't do this, then we're going into a full surveillance economy and our children have no choices, no freedoms. What this is freedom. We need to take our power back. When we were on the gold standard, if you didn't like what the government was doing, you simply walked into the bank with one of these, well, actually one of these, and walked out with this. And then that required fiscal responsibility because they just couldn't grow as much debt and create as much money. That was our vote. If I were alive back in 33 and 29 and 28 and really understood what was going on, boy, would I have fought hard to maintain that convertibility. And the last thing I want to say in this is do not be fooled when they say something is backed by something, because what people are really doing, what Wall Street is doing and how they're, and what Zimbabwe is doing in these governments. Oh, this currency is backed. Now you can't convert it. No, that means it's just pegged. It's not backed. It's not backed unless you can convert it. So if I'm representing us, or hopefully maybe Judy Sheldon, I'm very hopeful that we see her come back more into the politics of this administration. She understands sound money. And if I'm sitting at the table, I'm going to fight for that convertibility. So, and I was just recently appointed to the board, and I'm so honored with this, to be on the advisory board of the Sound Money Movement. And I also recently had an interview with the Sound Money League. And so working with those that are trying to, that are not trying to, they're working hard at getting gold and silver legalized from state to state. And we have to be a part of that. So much as I hate politics and much as I stay away from politics, you know, we've got to make this change. And if enough states legalize gold and silver, number one, it changes the taxes on it completely, right? But there's enough pressure for the federal government, just like we've recently seen changes in the marijuana laws, right, from the federal government because of what the states are doing. So I have a lot of hope. This is why I'm going to Australia. Last year when I went there, that's when I started talking about community on a much bigger level. And I got chills from the tip of my head to the bottom of my feet. So you will see me traveling a lot more as we go through. And it's about bringing that global community together and building a sound money movement.
I think it's awesome. I mean, my channel's been around for a little over a year and a half, and we're just starting to celebrate our 10,000 subscriber.
Fabulous.
We're gonna do a big party at the beach, which is going to be fun.
Nice.
But you know, it's not about a number. It's not about anything more than the community that I've built and the people. And I don't mean I built, but we built together. I've got
Exactly.
people in almost every state that reach out to me that like watching the videos we have. They've got questions. I get to meet a lot of people in person, and I'm finding that a lot more people are waking up to this. And so,
Yes.
to me, I've got a great career. This has nothing to do with my career. This is really just a way to give back. You know, a lot of people will go and serve in public service. Other people will do charitable events and other things. For me, I'm like, hey, let's start a channel. I can talk. I can put this stuff out there. And let's see if we can wake up a bunch of people to this. Because I honestly, to your point, I've got 3 kids. And they've all now just barely left the house, started college. And they're starting to understand more and more about sound money. And they're starting to understand what mess the world is in today because we went away from sound money. And they're looking, one of the reasons we're looking to move is they're looking around here. How can they ever afford a home in Southern California? It's just
Right.
it's too expensive. So if I want them to live by us or I want to live by them, I have to go live by them wherever they're going to be. And it's probably not going to be here. But Lynette, I've enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the next conversation we have.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I am very happy to come on your channel again. And I really appreciate that we're all part of the same community. And it's about education because my favorite question, how many times can you be lied to when you do not know the truth?
A lot. We've had it done for many years. So, well, cool.